Oh, wait, there we go. X. Nope, it's going to The Guardian, which will probably be. Article is more than 20 years old. Okay. West Point apparently has it, or I think it does. I'll shoot a link. Thank you. I think I just found it. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, permission to fight against disbelievers is given to those believers who are fought against, because they have been wronged, and surely Allah is able to give them believers victory. Wait, is this? This isn't the letter, though. This is. Maybe? Wait, is it? This seems like the letter, but it's not the same, like. Letter to America transcript in full. There we go. Newsweek. Okay, there's just little bits here. How do I get the full transcript? Okay, I'm looking for links too. Twitter. Yeah, of course it's on Twitter. Full transcript of the letter can be found below. All right. 2002. In the name of Allah, the most gracious. Oh, I'm wrong. Their letters and Bin Laden wrote in the 90s. Interesting. Not surprising. He's gonna rail against everything because he does go a little anti-Semitic, and then he goes full like chauvinist and anti-LGBTQ and all kinds of stuff. So might be problematic, but here we go. This is Osama bin Laden's letter to America, November 24th, 2002. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most powerful. Permission to fight against disbelievers is given to those believers who are fought against, because they have been wronged, and surely Allah is able to give them, believers, victory. The Quran 22:39. Those who believe fight in the cause of Allah, and those who disbelieve fight in the cause of Tagut, anything worshipped other than Allah, e.g. Satan. So fight you against the friends of Satan. Ever feeble is indeed the plot of Satan. Quran 476. I didn't know they were. I mean, I guess they're Abrahamian. Some American writers have published articles under the title "On What Basis Are We Fighting?" These articles have generated a number of responses, some of which adhered to the truth and were based on Islamic law, and others which have not. Here we wanted to outline the truth as an example and warning, hoping for Allah's reward, seeking success and support from Him. While seeking Allah's help, we form our reply based on two questions directed at the Americans. Question 1, why are we fighting and opposing you? And question 2, what are we calling you to and what do we want from you? As for the first question, we are fighting and opposing you. The answer is very simple. Because you attacked us and continue to attack us, and you attacked us in Palestine, which has sunk under military occupation for more than 80 years. The British handed over Palestine with your help and your support to the Jews who have occupied it for more than 50 years, overflowing with oppression, tyranny, crimes, killing, expulsion, destruction, and devastation. The creation and continuation of Israel is one of the greatest crimes, and you are the leaders of its criminals. And of course, there is no need to explain and prove the degree of American support for Israel. The creation of Israel is a crime which must be erased. Each and every person whose hands have become polluted in the contribution towards this crime must pay its price and pay for it heavily. It brings us both laughter and tears to see that you have not yet tired of repeating your fabricated lies that the Jews have a historical right to Palestine, as it was promised to them in the Torah. Anyone who disputes with them on this alleged fact is accused of anti-Semitism. This is one of the most fallacious, widely circulated fabrications in history. The people of Palestine are pure Arabs and original Semites. It is the Muslims who are the inheritors of Moses, peace be upon him, and the inheritors of the real Torah that has not been changed. Muslims believe in all of the prophets, including Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon them all. If the followers of Moses have been promised a right to Palestine in the Torah, then the Muslims are the most worthy nation of this. When the Muslims conquered Palestine and drove out the Romans, Palestine and Jerusalem returned to Islam, the religion of all the prophets, peace be upon them. Therefore, the call to a historical right to Palestine cannot be raised against the Islamic Ummah that believes in all the prophets of Allah, peace and blessings be upon them, and we make no distinction between them. The blood pouring out of Palestine must be equally revenged. You must know that the Palestinians do not cry alone. Their women are not widowed alone. Their sons are not orphaned alone. You attacked us in Somalia. You supported the Russian atrocities against us in Chechnya, the Indian oppression against us in Kashmir, and the Jewish aggression against us in Lebanon. Under your supervision, consent, and orders, the governments of our countries, which act as your agents, attack us on a daily basis. These governments prevent our people from establishing the Islamic Sharia, using violence and lies to do so. These governments give us a taste of humiliation, place us in a large prison of fear and subdual. These governments steal our Ummah's wealth and sell them to you at a paltry price. These governments have surrendered to the Jews and handed them most of Palestine, acknowledging the existence of their state over the dismembered limbs of their own people. The removal of these governments is an obligation upon us and a necessary step to free the Ummah, to make the Sharia the supreme law and to regain Palestine, and our fight against the governments is not separate from our fight against you. You steal our wealth and oil at paltry prices because of your international influence and military threats. This theft is indeed the biggest theft ever witnessed by mankind in the history of the world. Your forces occupy our countries, you spread your military bases throughout them, you corrupt our lands, and you besiege our sanctities. To protect the security of the Jews and to ensure the continuity of your pillage of your treasures. You have starved the Muslims of Iraq, where children die every day. It is a wonder that more than 1.5 million Iraqi children have died as a result of your sanctions, and you did not show concern. Yet when 3,000 of your people died, the entire world raises and has not yet sat down. You have supported the Jews in their idea that Jerusalem is their eternal capital and agreed to move your embassy there. With your help and under your protection, the Israelis are planning to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Under the protection of your weapons, Sharon entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque to pollute it as a preparation to capture and destroy it. These tragedies and calamities are only a few examples of your oppression and aggression against us. It is commanded by our religion and intellect that the oppressed have a right to return the aggression. Do not await anything from us but jihad, resistance, and revenge. Is it in any way rational to expect that after America has attacked us for more than half a century, that we will then leave her to live in security and peace? You may then dispute that all of the above does not justify aggression against civilians for crimes they did not commit and offenses in which they did not partake. This argument contradicts your continuous repetition that America is the land of freedom and its leaders in this world. Therefore, the American people are the ones who choose their government by way of their own free will, a choice which stems from their agreement to its policies. Thus, the American people have chosen, consented to, and affirmed their support for the Israeli oppression of the Palestinians, the occupation and usurpation of their land, and its continuous killing, torture, punishment, and expulsion of the Palestinians. The American people have the ability and choice to refuse the policies of their government and even change it if they want. The American people are the ones who pay the taxes which fund the planes that bomb us in Afghanistan, the tanks that strike and destroy our homes in Palestine, the armies which occupy our lands in the Arabian Gulf, and the fleets which ensure the blockade of Iraq. These tax dollars are given to Israel for it to continue to attack us and penetrate our lands. So the American people are the ones who fund the attacks against us, and they are the ones who oversee the expenditure of these monies in the way they wish through their elected candidate. Also, the American army is part of the American people. It is these very same people who are shamelessly helping the Jews fight against us. The American people are the ones who employ both their men and their women in the American forces which attack us. This is why the American people cannot be innocent of all crimes committed by the Americans and Jews against us. Allah the Almighty legislated the permission and the option to take revenge. Thus, if we are attacked, then we have the right to attack back. Whoever has destroyed our villages and towns, then we have the right to destroy their villages and towns. Whoever has stolen our wealth, then we have the right to destroy their economy. And whoever has killed our civilians, then we have the right to kill theirs. The American government and press still refuse to answer the question. Why did they attack us in New York and Washington? If Sharon is a man of peace in the eyes of Bush, then we are also men of peace. America does not understand the language of manners and principles, so we are addressing it using the language it understands. Question 2. As for the second question that we want to answer, what are we calling you to, and what do we want from you? The first thing is that we are calling you to is Islam, the religion of unification of God, the freedom from associating partners with Him, and rejection of this, of complete love of Him, the exalted, of complete submission to His laws, and of the discarding of all opinions, orders, theories, and religions which contradict with the religion He sent down to His prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Islam is the religion of all prophets and makes no distinction between them, peace be upon them all. I'll get into something about that later, but that's not necessarily true. It is the religion that we call you, it is to this religion that we call you, the seal of all the previous religions. It is the religion of unification of God, sincerity, the best of manners, righteousness, mercy, honor, purity, and piety. It is the religion of showing kindness to others, establishing justice between them, granting them their rights, and defending the oppressed and the persecuted. It is the religion of enjoining the good and forbidding the evil with the hand, tongue, and heart. It is the religion of jihad in the way of Allah, so that Allah's word and religion reign supreme. And it is the religion of unity and agreement on the obedience to Allah, and total equality between all people without regarding their color, sex, or language. It is the religion whose book, the Quran, will remain preserved and unchanged after other divine books and messages have been changed. The Quran is the miracle until the day of judgment. Allah has challenged anyone to bring a book like the Quran, or even 10 verses like it. The second thing we call you to is to stop your oppression, lies, immorality, and debauchery that has spread among you. We call you to be people of manners, principles, honor, and purity, to reject the immoral acts of fornication, homosexuality, intoxicants, gamblings, and trading with interest. Okay, trading with interest right there. That's a huge part of just come on now. So far, it still sounds like he's a piece of shit. Yeah, exactly. Like, he's got good ideas, but he's trying to... He was like, hell-bent on exacting Sharia law. And it's like, sure. Ludwig brought up a very good point that you could just go to Wikipedia and find out about America's atrocities. You don't have to take it from Osama bin Laden. But let's finish the letter anyway. We call you to all of this, that you may be freed from that which you have become caught up in, that you may be freed from the deceptive lies that you are a great nation, that your leaders spread amongst you to conceal from you the despicable state which you have reached. It is saddening to tell you that you are the worst civilization witnessed by the history of mankind. You are the nation who, rather than ruling by Sharia of Allah in its constitution of laws, choose to invent your own laws as you will and desire. You separate religion from your policies, contradicting the pure nature which affirms absolute authority to the Lord and your Creator. You flee from the embarrassing question posed to you: how is it possible for Allah the Almighty to create His creation, grant them power over all the creatures of the world, grant them all the amenities of life, and then deny them that which they are most in need of, knowledge of the laws which govern their lives. So he was like he was just a theist, basically, like a Islamic theist. You are the nation that permits usury. Usury, I believe, is the one where you, see. You build your economy and investments on usury. Yeah, so that's loaning with interest, which is basically like, for a long time, Islam and Christianity both forbade the act of loaning with interest. So the only people that could loan with interest were Jewish people. And so that was a way that they weaponized money against, basically, for anti-Semitic purposes. Let's continue. As a result of this, in all its different forms and guises, the Jews have taken control of your economy, through which they have then taken control of your media and now control all aspects of your life, making you their servants and achieving their aims at your expense, precisely what Benjamin Franklin warned you against. Okay, so old school anti-Semitism. Not surprising. You are a nation that permits the production, trading, and usage of intoxicants. You also permit drugs and only forbid the trade of them, even though your nation is the largest consumer of them. Not necessarily true, but close. You are a nation that permits acts of immorality, here we go, and you consider them to be pillars of personal freedom. You continue to sink down this abyss from level to level until incest has spread among you, in the face of which neither your sense of honor nor your laws object. That is wild. You can forget your President Clinton's immoral acts committed in the Oval Office. Oh, who can forget your President Clinton's immoral acts committed in the Oval Office? After that, you did not even bring him to account, other than that he made a mistake, after which everything passed with no punishment. Is there a worse kind of event for which your name will go down in history and remembered by nations? Yeah, I mean, that wasn't that big a deal. He cheated on his wife. Who gives a shit? You are a nation that permits gambling in all its forms. The companies practice this as well, resulting in the investment becoming active and the criminals becoming rich. That's true. You are a nation that exploits women like consumer products or advertising tools call upon customers to purchase them. You use women to serve passengers, visitors, and strangers to increase your profit margins. You then rant that you support the liberation of women. Okay, that's a weird-ass misunderstanding of women's rights right there, Osama. You're a nation that practices the trade of sex in all its forms. Not true. Directly and indirectly, giant corporations and establishments are established on this under the name of art, entertainment, tourism, and freedom, and other deceptive names you attribute to it. So, you can see the Islamic repression showing up. The like, I went to America and I saw a bikini and now I'm tainted. Let's continue. And because all of this, you have been described in history as a nation that spreads disease that were unknown to man in the past. Go ahead and boast to the nations of man that you brought them AIDS as a satanic American invention. Wild. Also not true. See, this is the thing too. Once we start speculating about the origins of diseases, viruses, all that stuff, it gets insane. Like, you can tell you got to be a little cuckoo to start speculating about those kind of things. You have destroyed nature with your industrial waste and gases more than any other nation in history. That's true. Despite this, you refuse to sign the Kyoto Agreement so that you can secure the profit of your greedy companies and industries. Yeah, dude, he's all over the place. Like, some of it, you're right. He almost has the point on some of it. He really does get a lot of stuff. On the other stuff, he's just a crazy yokel. Your law is the law of rich and wealthy people who hold sway in their political parties and fund their election campaigns with their gifts. Behind them stand the Jews who control your policies, media, and economy. Yep, there he goes again. It's wild that you can take the kernel of truth, which is that in regards to Israel, we have a blind spot. You can take the kernel of truth in that our policies, media, and economy are coached, but that's not it's not by Jewish peoples exclusively. And to say this is like weird. He's just leaning into the oldest anti-Semitic trope in the book, which is not surprising that then Nazis took that and ran with it and continued with it. All right, that which you are singled out for in the history of mankind is that you have used your force to destroy mankind more than any other nation in history, not to defend principles and values, but to hasten to secure your interests and profits. You who dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan, even though Japan was ready to negotiate an end to the war. How many acts of oppression, tyranny, and injustice have you carried out, O callers to freedom? That part's true. That's legit. Let us not forget one of your major characteristics, your duality in both manners and values, your hypocrisy in manners and principles. All manners and principles and values have two scales, one for you and one for the others. That's true. We are very two-faced in our implementation of the law. The freedom and democracy that you call to is for yourselves and for the white race only. As for the rest of the world, you impose upon them your monstrous, destructive policies and governments, which you call the American friends. Yet you prevent them from establishing democracies. When the Islamic Party in Algeria wanted to practice democracy, and they won the election, you unleashed your agents in the Algerian army onto them, and to attack them with tanks and guns, to imprison them and torture them. A new lesson from the American Book of Democracy. Rigged. Nobody caught the Pokemon. Your policy on prohibiting and forcibly removing weapons of mass destruction to ensure world peace. It only applies to those countries which you do not permit to possess such weapons. As for the countries you consent to, such as Israel, then they are allowed to keep and use such weapons to defend their security. Anyone else who you suspect might be manufacturing or keeping these kinds of weapons, you call them criminals and take military action against them. That's totally legit, because we have, like, this last week, we have confirmation that Israel has a nuclear arms program that they're working on. And we know that American and Israeli forces have assassinated a lot of Iranian nuclear physicists. So we know that part's true. Let's see. And that at least one person in the government is threatening to nuke Gaza. Yeah, their Minister of Heritage said that, and he was put on leave, but he was not fired. And yeah, they're definitely threatening to nuke Gaza. You are the last ones to respect the resolutions and policies of international law, yet you claim to want to selectively punish anyone else who does the same. Israel has, for more than 50 years, been pushing UN resolutions and rules against the wall without full support of America. Let's see, and eventually put back in the same place. Probably, yeah. Until Netanyahu's out of there, that cabinet's just going to stay the same. As for the war criminals which you censure and formal criminal courts for, you shamelessly ask that your own are granted immunity. However, history will not forget the war crimes that you committed against the Muslims and the rest of the world. Those you killed in Japan, Afghanistan, Somalia, Lebanon, and Iraq will remain a shame that you will never be able to escape. It will suffice to remind you of your latest war crimes in Afghanistan, in which densely populated innocent civilian villages were destroyed. Bombs were dropped on mosques, causing the roof of mosques to come crashing down on the heads of Muslims praying inside. You are the ones who broke the agreement with the Mujahideen when they left Kunduz, bombing them in Jangi Fort and killing more than 1,000 of your prisoners through suffocation and thirst. Allah alone knows how many people have died by torture at the hands of you and your agents. Your planes remain in the Afghan skies, looking for anyone remotely suspicious. You have claimed to be the vanguards of human rights, and your Ministry of Foreign Affairs issues annual reports containing statistics of those countries that violate any human rights. However, all these things vanished when the Mujahideen hit you, and you then implemented the methods of the same documented governments that you used to curse. In America, you captured thousands of Muslims and Arabs, took them into custody with neither reason, court trial, nor even disclosing their names. You issued newer, harsher laws. What happens in Guantanamo is a historical embarrassment to America and its values, and it screams into your face, you hypocrites. What is the value of your signature on any agreement or treaty? That part's legit. That is very legit. We have this bad history, and it's not just Muslims and Arabs. We also did this to the Japanese during World War II. We have this bad history of creating prison colonies in both times of war and just basically times of strife, and we end up filling those prison colonies with basically anybody that we can racially segregate based on our foreign affairs. It's absolutely fucked. What we call you to, thirdly, is to take an honest stance with yourselves, and I doubt you will do so, to discover that you are a nation without principles or manners, and that the values and principles to you are something which you merely demand from others, not which you yourself must adhere to. Really true. We also advise you to stop supporting Israel and to end your support of the Indians in Kashmir, the Russians against the Chechens, and also cease supporting the Manila government against the Muslims in southern Philippines. We also advise you to pack your luggage and get out of our lands. We desire for your goodness, guidance, and righteousness, so do not force us to send you back as cargo in coffins. Jeez. Sixthly, we call upon you to end your support for the corrupt leaders in our countries. Do not interfere in our politics and method of education. Leave us alone, or else expect us in New York and Washington. Huh. Interesting. That's not really how foreign delegations work, but we also call you to deal with us and interact with us on the basis of mutual interest and benefits rather than the policies of subdual, theft, and occupation, and not to continue your policy of supporting the Jews because this will result in more disasters for you. If you fail to respond to all these conditions, then prepare for fight with the Islamic nation, the nation of monotheism that puts complete trust in Allah and fears none other than Him, the nation which is addressed by its Quran with the words, "Do you fear them? Allah has more right that you should fear Him if you are believers." Fight against them so that Allah will punish them by your hands and disgrace them and give you victory over them and heal the breasts of believing people and remove the anger of their hearts. Allah accepts the repentance of whom He wills. Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. The nation of honor and respect, but honor, power, and glory belong to Allah and His messengers and to His believers. So do not become weak, nor be sad, and you will be superior in victory if you are indeed true believers. The nation of martyrs. Okay, so he just basically starts listing off a bunch of Quran verses. Finally, the Islamic nation that was able to dismiss and destroy the previous evil empires like yourself, the nation that rejects your attacks, wishes to remove your evils, and prepares to fight you. You are well aware that the Islamic nation, from the very core of its soul, despises your haughtiness and arrogance. If the Americans refuse to listen to our advice and the goodness, guidance, and righteousness that we call them to, then be aware that you will lose this crusade Bush began, just like the other previous crusades in which you were humiliated by the hands of the Mujahideen, fleeing to your home in great silence and disgrace. If the Americans do not respond, then their fate will be that of the Soviets who fled from Afghanistan to deal with their military defeat, political breakup, ideological downfall, and economic bankruptcy. This is our message to Americans as an answer to theirs. Do you know why we fight them, and over which form of ignorance, by the permission of Allah, we shall be victorious? Interesting. So yeah, all in all, he was kind of just a nut. He had some very similar to. I mean, it's funny. Major and I were talking about it and kind of comparing him to Ted Kaczynski. It's like someone who had some solid understanding of the flaws of the world, especially the flaws of American imperialism and all that stuff, but then also came at it from this weird extremist perspective that is not necessary at all. And also clearly he's throwing a lot of bigotry around, which is, I mean, there's going to be people that are going to disagree in all of those forms. There are Muslims who believe that it's not the stance against women and homosexuals is incorrect, especially regarding the stance that Muhammad took on that whole issue. That's just a whole big can of worms right there. I'm glad we read it. Like, it makes a lot of sense, and I get why he wrote it the way he did. I understand also why people are talking about it right now, because with what's going on in Israel and in Gaza especially, it is I should say Palestine, Gaza. But yeah, the what's going on there, it definitely has a lot to say. It's interesting that he used Israel as one of his justifications. I had never realized that.